Well, we're coming up on August 17th, which is the big date if you're in real estate or looking at buying a home or selling a home. And that date is the date that the changes take place in how buyer's agents are compensated and what disclosures are required. So without getting into the details of the lawsuit, let me give you a breakdown real easy and simple on how it affects you when you're buying a home and how it can affect your loan. So traditionally, a seller would decide with their listing agent how much they're willing to pay compensation to their agent. Their listing agent would then decide to split a portion of that commission with the buyer's agent who brings a buyer to them to sell the house. That didn't impact you as a buyer in any way because you didn't have to actually pay that compensation out of pocket, even though the price was already based on paying that compensation. Of course, no one would sell their house paying the full commission without including that in the price you were already paying. So now today, the new rules state that the buyer must sign an agreement with their agent determining how much the buyer's agent is being compensated upfront in advance of closing on their purchase. The seller can still pay compensation to the buyer's agent as was traditionally done in every case. So that still can be applicable, and that can still work where you don't have to bring any money out of pocket as a buyer to pay for that compensation. However, if the seller is not paying any compensation or they're only paying part of the buyer's compensation, then you as the buyer need to bring that money to closing. So this will increase your cash to close. Now keep in mind, a seller who's not offering compensation to a buyer's agent is going to price their house a little bit lower than if someone was paying compensation. So it's all factored into the price that you're paying. You can adjust that and offer a higher price with your buyer's agent compensation built in as well. You can also ask for seller concessions within the limits of the loan program to help cover some of your closing costs, including the buyer's agent compensation. However, you cannot finance in the cost of that compensation into the loan amount. So the bottom line is there really aren't that big of changes for you as a buyer in most cases. You should be able to structure your deal where the seller is paying the buyer's agent commission or you're getting a credit. If not, however, you need to make sure that the lender documents sufficient funds to close because that needs to show up in the bank and needs to be on the final closing disclosure because we have to account for those funds. So if you have any questions on your scenario and how this lawsuit can affect you as a home buyer, please reach out. I'm happy to answer your questions.